What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
All right, I think we are all set. What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to episode number 582 of Underground Sports Philadelphia, presented by the City of Vineland. It's KB and Matt coming at you from Underground Studios. And my, oh my, do we have a lot to talk about. If you missed it, we put out the little breaking news video because I'm on vacation from my day job and was just awake at 2 a.m. when Woj was in an L.A. airport. Eventually getting kicked out at 4 a.m.
I think it was a Newark airport, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He was going to L.A., that's right. We're going to talk Dallas week, talk whatever comes to mind. But obviously, the big news is James Harden is no longer a Philadelphia 76er. But before we get into all of that, make sure you guys are following us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, at UndergroundPHI. You can follow me on Twitter at KBIZZL311. Follow Matt on Twitter at MattCastorina. You can follow us on Facebook as well at Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI and Twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It goes a long way for helping this show continue to grow. Helps more people find Underground Sports Philadelphia as a whole. And let's just do more dope stuff that we have in the works. So continue subscribing. Leave a 5-star review. It really does help. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show every single week, twice a week. You get full video episodes of Top Bins, Get in the Hole, Outside the Box, Streamer Season, F1 Underground, the whole 9 yards. Every podcast on our network in video form goes on our YouTube channel. We're on that road to 700 subscribers. It's a brand new month. Let's get to 700 plus during the month of November. We are currently at 624, so let's keep that rolling. Go subscribe, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. And this show is presented by the City of Vineland and the City of Vineland Municipal Calendar. Features city-organized, city-sponsored, and city-affiliated events that are of public interest. The calendar, which is accessible at vinelandcity.org, is a good way for residents and visitors to build awareness, remain engaged with city government, and participate in local events. You can also follow the City of Vineland on social media via their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube pages. And through these tools, you can stay connected to the community and get important announcements about programs and services offered by the city. Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always growing season. And big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. Matt, what the heck is going on, brother?
Living the dream. So,
Uno out. James Harden to L.A., unlike Woj, as another Sixers-Clippers trade in the middle of the night occurs. I'm pretty convinced Elton Brand had something to do with this one as well. James Harden, P.J. Tucker, and as Pat Bev calls him, Philip with an F, go to the Clippers. And then as of today, Philip with an F, since traded to the Sacramento Kings, in exchange for Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, and Kenyon Martin Jr., along with draft picks, a pick swap once again, and a whole lot of just drama lifted from this team for once.
yeah. Last time we were in an offseason and it came into the year with a player refusing to play, it took us all the way to the trade deadline. That's how we got James Harden. I think it's funny that he was the big prize out of that, and then he becomes kind of the diva. It's like that saying, like, if they cheat with you, they will cheat on you. I guess we should have expected it, but yeah, in some ways, I'm kind of glad that this isn't just going to linger over the team the whole season, because the Ben Simmons thing did, and it just kind of felt like the whole year was just kind of exhausting to deal with as a fan. And finally when you get rid of him and Harden comes in, and at that time that was a breath of fresh air. And it felt like you kind of rejuvenated. And now I think you get that at the beginning of the season, and maybe things just go a little smoother. I think it's helped that the Sixers have looked pretty good to start the year. And, Maxey's at least looks like he might have taken another step and looks like he's developed again as a player. So that I think makes this all a little bit easier to kind of deal with and sit with. So for Harden, I don't know. I think this team could be worse off for the regular season without James Harden. I don't want to diminish that he is still a good player, and he was the assist leader last year, and I think is one of the many reasons that Embiid wins an MVP last season too. I think he does play a part in that, but we also saw that in the playoffs. He had some big performances in the playoffs, absolutely, but really when this team needed him to step up as a max level player, he didn't, and Embiid didn't either. So I think that deserves highlighted. It wasn't last year's playoff loss was not all on Harden, the same way that the Hawks series loss was not all on Ben Simmons. There were other factors, but I just think it all turned really sour, and whatever relationship deteriorated between him and Daryl Morey, it seemed like just it was not going to be repaired, and this was really the only solution, was him being off the team in some way. So given all that, the fact that we had zero leverage, he publicly called our GM a liar and said that he would never play for him again.
In China.
Awesome. Then had to walk that back because he said some stuff about tampering and had to make sure he wasn't going to lose money, of course. But
then proceeded to have Daryl Morey's a liar on those giant light up
which
bottle service girl
admittedly
signs.
Very funny.
Very funny.
And he only had one destination he was willing to go to, which was the Clippers. The fact that all those things happened and the Sixers were able to get at least a decent return, I think is good stuff. They get two things. They get some draft assets back because this team has obviously made a lot of moves over the last 5 or 6 years in an attempt to be competitive, and obviously it hasn't worked. But you kind of restock that a little bit. The 2026 pick, once we got the details, took a little bit of the shine off. It's the worst of the
Clippers, OKC,
and Rockets. Not the greatest pick in the world, but I think that's still, it's a decent pick. Really, these are just assets now that the Sixers can package to try and get someone, that was clearly the pivot option. Who that person is, who knows? And two, they get these contracts, which are expiring contracts, which are not just valuable to the Sixers in that, they're trying this summer. And Daryl Morey was saying that all offseason that, they wanted to be one of these teams with a lot of cap space next year, even though the free agency class is not very good. We also know that stars become unhappy and unsettled every 4 months in the NBA. I used to say 6 months. It's now every 4 months. There's someone that's unhappy with their situation and wants to leave. If you had said this time last year that Drew Holiday would be a Boston Celtic, that would have been a very bizarre thing for me to have come on this podcast and say. But that's the reality now, right? So I just think they have these expiring contracts, which are good not just for the Sixers for that reason, but also if those players also get traded, teams do value expiring contracts for similar reasons. So that gives the Sixers a little bit more flexibility. For this season, though, obviously not having Harden sucks, and I think will in some ways be a detriment, and I don't know what move they're making that is really going to move this team into championship contention this season, and I don't think you can just kind of punt this season. I don't think Embiid would be happy with that. I don't think as a fan I would really like that if we're just like, well, we're just going to roll with it and see what happens this summer. I've seen this team try and go in the summer and make big swings all the time. I remember Brian Colangelo's dumb, we're going star hunting bullshit. I've been sold. The problem with the Sixers is I've been sold so many different stories over the last 6 years that I'm numb to it all.
We sat in this very studio pissed off that after we found out LeBron gave the Sixers a meeting, he went and signed with the Lakers, and it was pitched to us that LeBron was giving us a chance.
And LeBron could be a Sixer this summer too. It's just, I don't know where the direction the team is going, and I think if you just kind of have another lackluster year, you have a first or second round exit, I don't know where this team is going. I don't know who you're getting again in this season. That's really, Zach LaVine has been the big guy rumored to come here. I think Zach LaVine's a good player. I don't think Zach LaVine is what's the
He's
difference.
not a needle pusher.
He's not the difference between this team even making a conference finals. I honestly don't. I don't think that's really. Would I say no to Zach LaVine? No, but I don't know where it goes from here, and I think I'm curious to see how they fill this out. For the time being, I'm happy with how the Sixers are at this moment, at least. The way they've been playing through the first few games of the season, and we'll see where we go from there. And I don't know what Harden's legacy is. I don't know what it is.
I saw a friend of the program, Sean Bernard, who covers the Sixers for Philly Sports Network. He said Harden's legacy is he's the Michael Jordan of trade requests.
I mean, honestly, he has developed a very real. This is his legacy now. Like it or not,
Yeah.
And Nick Nurse gave an interesting quote about Harden, and he was saying listen, it's going to be a blip on the radar, and we'll forget about this, and whatever. And it was a pretty nice way of diffusing it, but I don't think we will, because this is
the most recent memory of him.
Yeah, this is the third straight team he's done this with. And the strange thing is with the Rockets and the Nets, I don't think he was totally unjustified. With the Sixers, he was upset because the Sixers weren't reaching out to him when they couldn't, because the Sixers just got fined for tampering this past year.
For helping him.
Right. And I mean, listen, I think lost in all, Harden is not the total villain here, and I don't want I don't want it to be portrayed that way, because he also did take a team-friendly deal last year so that this team could make some on the margins moves. That's how we get PJ Tucker, right? So he did do. He's such an enigma, because he was the assist leader last year. Maxey loves this guy. Maxey seems to really have appreciated James Harden's time in Philadelphia, and seems like he really had an effect on him and has really kind of unlocked something in Maxey. Yet he also puts up these dud performances, doesn't really seem to care. I don't know, and I don't know if that's just his personality, his just body language, even.
And it spreads to the other players on the court.
He just seems like a disengaged person, and I don't know if that's just his personality, so I don't want to be too harsh on that, but it's hard as a fan to feel like this guy cares.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's something he can control or not, because maybe that's just the way he is. Some people are just like that, but it's hard as a fan to feel like James Harden actually cares about winning. And when listen, do I think the Clippers are the team to go to win? I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe it's a better role for him. Who knows? But
the video of him walking in the locker room yesterday was absolute. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
Terrence Mann looked so disgusted that he was walking and was like, "Up, here comes trouble."
Yeah, the guy who's going to steal my minutes.
Yeah.
This is from YC on Twitter. One of my favorite tweets. 2 happiest days of an NBA fan's life are when their team trades for James Harden and when their team trades away James Harden.
It's so true.
Honestly, that's no one has ever summed up the James Harden experience more than that.
It's so valid.
So yeah, thanks, I guess. I mean, honestly, it was better than being stuck with Ben Simmons for the last year and a half, I guess. But
thanks for Game 1 against the Celtics.
Thanks for Game 1 against us. It really reeled us in with hope. And then thanks for Game 7 for at least putting us out of our misery by halftime, so I could just close my TV up for the night and wallow. But yeah, I mean, good luck in LA, I guess. Don't foresee that experiment going well. What happens if you took him and Kawhi are the two, again, most just disengaged NBA stars, and that I don't know if they care or not. Except Kawhi has shown in the playoffs, when he's healthy, whenever that is, that he can play at the top level. I would have massive concerns as a Clippers fan in that you are putting a lot of chips in this basket again of a team that just can't. They've not proven to be able to stay healthy. Maybe they do. I don't know. But for the Sixers, they get some depth. Like you said, Covington's back. A lot of these guys are really just guys you're acquiring simply because of their expiring contracts. But I don't know. I think this is a weird year for the Sixers in that I think expectations have never been lower. It feels like it does, in previous years, it felt like we were coming in like this team should be going to the finals. This year, I don't feel that way at all. And that's not a good thing either. I think that we've regressed as a team when you have an MVP caliber player in Embiid, that you shouldn't enter a season and not feel like this team could win an NBA championship, or at the very least make an NBA finals. I feel like this team has no chance, honestly. I don't see them getting out of the East. I don't see this team getting out of the second round because they also haven't. Like I have zero faith in them. Maybe over the course of the year I'll get reeled back in again. I'm already starting to with Nick Nurse because we actually, I don't know, like practice basketball now.
Who knew?
We don't have the Doc Rivers golf show.
Come on, guys.
Yeah. So
I think the greatest contribution Doc Rivers could give to us is when the Sixers play the Clippers on ESPN. He's got to be on the broadcast.
I would honestly just turn the audio off. There's no way I'm listening to that.
Robert Covington seems thrilled to be back. All the players met with the media today, and he said that this is where he put his name on the map, and it's surreal to be back. I think he's a guy that can actually contribute to this team too, as one of those expiring contract guys that I feel Daryl Morey would be inclined to keep. Did he play for Nick Nurse when he was in the G League or the D League at the time?
No, I know that was Harden's connection to Nick Nurse. I don't know if Robert Covington ever did.
I forget when Nick Nurse was the coach, and everything. Marcus Morris, you'll see what he contributes. I mean, just having him finally have his homecoming that feels like it's been a decade in the making is very funny. And I think Kenyon Martin Jr. is an intriguing player because it's more athleticism for this team that they typically have strayed away from over the past 5-6 years. So to have a young 23-year-old is very fun, at least.
Yeah, it's like watching Kelly Oubre, and you're like, wow, someone who cuts to the rim. That's amazing. I've not seen that. It's pretty nice.
Who would have thought?
So, I don't know.
And then
it's hard. I gotta tell you, it's hard as an NBA fan, caring because there's so much player movement.
Yes.
And I like to. I'm of two minds, and this is where it's tough. I like that players should have more say, right?
Correct.
Because ultimately, the NBA, the NFL, MLB, all of it is nothing without the players. There's no replacement for them. And their talent and what they can do. And so they should have a lot of leverage. But how am I possibly supposed to care and get invested emotionally and financially? How could I be a season ticket holder when in the back of my mind all I'm thinking about is if this season goes wrong, Embiid is asking out this summer. And he'll get it. He'll get traded this summer. If he wants to get traded, he will do it. James Harden this summer wanted to get traded. Even though he's under contract, he opted in to a contract this summer. He can still force a trade to his preferred destination with zero leverage. How is this sustainable in the long run in terms of team, being fans of teams? Now, I think you're seeing it with younger generations are becoming more fans of just players, which is an interesting development. But how am I supposed? I think the NBA has a unique problem with this that other sports don't, in that there is so much player movement. And listen, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here about the players, but Nicholas Batum's wife reposting Drew Holiday's wife. First of all, your husband's game check is $600,000. All right, he's making insane amounts of money. He's made over $100 million in his career. Cry me a fucking river about oh, we woke up and we had to move. Oh, I had to move from L.A. to Philadelphia. God forbid. We're living the obscene life of luxury in L.A. and we have to move to an obscene life of luxury in Philadelphia. I get it. I get it's not easy to move and having to it can be stressful even when you're rich, whatever, your kids, your family, all of it. Shut up. just shut up. All right? That is what you sign up for when the NBA. If you get to push through a move whenever you feel like, you can also get a phone call or see it on Twitter first, that you're getting moved. Do I think the player should always be told first? Sure.
Yes.
Like, I don't like the ambulance chasers of Woj and Shams and that they get to break the bread first all the time. But I just, all of it kind of just has really, the last few years.
It did feel very weird that she like reposted somebody else's.
Yeah, like you couldn't just say like, don't trust anyone. You can do the cryptic NFL wide receiver tweet or something like.
It's pinned on AJ Brown's account.
Well, the earth is flat, so, and I'm starting to believe AJ Brown's starting to make sense.
As long as AJ Brown believes it.
I think that's why the ball is so attracted to his hands. I think he understands something about gravity and earth shape.
The world revolves around AJ Brown.
So I'm starting to think that there's some truth to that. But yeah, I think the NBA, I think this is going to be a problem for the NBA.
Yeah.
I have found myself outside of the Sixers, not like I don't really watch national games anymore. Like it's hard to get. It's just hard to.
There's very few teams that like even bring it. It's like, you know, the Warriors have been a collective unit for almost a decade now. So like they're kind of established, and then they just kind of rotate the role players.
But their biggest, like, part of their dynasty was a guy who he didn't force his way out for it, but he leaves in free agent, and it's like, I don't know. I think it's for me, the NBA has kind of fallen off a little bit in the last few years because of that, and I don't know if that's the only reason, but I just think in general, like, I have felt myself kind of loving watching the NBA a little less. And part of that is also because the Sixers have been so psychologically damaging that, you know, that's part of it. But I've really only found myself watching Sixers games and not really plugging into like TNT on Tuesdays, Thursdays, right? Like, I don't know.
And I mean, after the MLB playoffs that we had to go through, take me off of any Turner Sports Broadcasting.
Yeah, please.
With the Sixers and everything, did you see this clip has been making the rounds just on social because of his podcast? Did you see the clip of Pat Bev talking about conditioning with Joel Embiid?
No.
Let me find it here because Pat Bev's impression of Joel, for one, is absolutely hilarious. And
MVP last year, and as soon as I wake up this morning, I see some fucking bullshit on my feed about the Knicks saying that they have this package for him or that package.
Yeah, you know.
Hey, I have news for the Knicks, bro. You're not getting Embiid, bro. I don't give a fuck what you have to give up. I don't care if you give us 1,000 first-round picks. I don't care if you give us fucking Randall, Quickly, Barrett. Oh, they said that they have fucking Evan Fournier for us. Nobody wants Evan Fournier. Get the fuck out of here, dude. You are never going to get Embiid playing for the Knicks,
bro.
and I'm tired of New York fans.
But you live in New York, so be careful, Ron.
I don't care, dude. I'll say that shit in New York as well, dude. I'll let them know.
so there was that one, but then there was also
Which is true. And
Condition that you had with Embiid, bro. I'm trying to learn something.
17s.
What the fuck is that?
So you run a court, but
Oh,
the
shit.
sideways, you have to do it under a minute.
Bro, I could do probably 38-17s on my Fetty Wap shit.
We got practice. I walk up to Joe like, "Hey, yo, let's do some extra conditioning." He like, "All right." I'm like, "All right." I'm like, "All right, we gonna do 17s." He say, "Which way?" We gonna do it the short way. He, "All right." So we do the 17s.
Oh,
Damn.
what?
So when we get done, everybody clapping and shit. Like, they were amazed. Like, damn, man, you really got Joel Embiid to do 17s, right? So today after practice, hey, Joe, I do some extra conditioning again. Hey, man, I'm not doing 17s. Joe, come on, we got to do it one more time, Joe. He, all right. So he knock him out again, another 17. So shout out to Joel Embiid. Like, that shows you MVP. He doesn't have to do that, you know what I'm saying? But he's willing to do that for to help his condition and help the team. So Tyrese Maxey has the best Joel Embiid impressions. It's the funniest shit in the world.
How does it sound? Dude, I like your impression of it, but I think you just gotta hone it. More like a little bit like Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Hey, you're wild. You're wild.
The Sixers are gonna do great this year.
Hey, you got the best. He's the best. Hey, Joel is the best, man.
those are pretty good. Honestly, Beverly should give himself a little more credit. That's a pretty good.
Yes.
That was a pretty good Embiid. But I mean, cool. Again, this is all part of it, right? This
Right.
is how I'm going to get dragged back into caring about this team. So.
Exactly. I mean, I think my favorite part about the trade, though, is Robert Covington's back.
Yeah, that'll be nice, but I don't know. It's been 6 years.
We were at this very desk
Yeah.
when it broke on a Saturday morning.
Around this time. That was like November, I think that trade happened.
Traded for Jimmy Butler. What
What's
a
he up
time.
to? What's Jimmy Butler been up to? I haven't heard about him since.
Panic at the free throw.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Sixers. It does seem like we have a competent coach for the first time since like early Brett Brown years, and not that late Brett Brown was like poor coaching or anything. It kind of just ran its course, but fascinating what an actual NBA coach can do for a team. So shout out James Harden. Also, does that mean, Matt, we have to remove the painting from the backdrop?
Well,
Or is it just a part of...
speaking of removing James Harden paintings, I don't know how I missed this. You know Daryl Morey has a painting of James Harden
in his house?
in his house, and also commissioned one of Joel Embiid.
I didn't know the Embiid part. I did know he had one of Harden, though.
What? What? He says he's not taking it down either. Like I am aghast. Daryl Morey is truly a freak. Like that's the only. It's like a side profile of him, and in the background is the arc of the like an NBA like half court, and it's his true shooting percentage from the Rockets 2018 season after they got dumped in the playoffs in Game 7. What? Like I read that there was a Ramona Shelburne article today on ESPN that I read, and that was it. And that was like a part of the story. It's like that is awful. That's like what it's like predominantly in his house. Like it's not like I have that in my office. Like
I didn't know it
This is
had
in
like
his
the
home.
shooting percentage.
yeah, he walks into his home and it is. I gotta say, I'm not an art critic. It's not the most beautiful piece. I can see why this guy was into crypto and the goddamn dog pictures. Because I gotta tell you, it's not the most inspiring art I've ever seen.
I remember...
No shade to the Croatian guy that got for the article too to talk about who made the painting. I'm not trying to hate on anybody here, but
'cause I remember when Daryl went on the Ricky, that was in the backdrop of where he was during the episode.
I got some questions. That's all.
Is
why?
Embiid's going to have like the trajectory of his DX chop that he gets fined for?
Yeah. Yeah, so here's the description from the article. It is a stunning piece of art. Stunning is definitely doing a lot of heavy lifting. Harden towering over a basketball court, his hair ablaze in oranges, reds, and yellows to reflect how monstrous his offensive output had been the year he won the league's MVP award. I gotta remind you, this is in Daryl Morey's house. This is not in like James Harden's house. This is in Daryl Morey's house. Along the three-point line is the formula for true shooting percentage, a favorite metric of Morey's to reflect Harden's historically great output. His eyes, heart, and iconic beard are all in shades of blue to reflect the calm, almost surgical way Harden dissected defenses and controlled games at the apex of his powers.
Yeah, here's one that he has of Embiid behind him on the Ricky.
Yeah, so he commissioned a similar...
With the Twitter birds.
He said, James changed my life. What? I just, I don't know. I found that really shocking. And I feel like an adult man, I'm going to be honest, an adult man who is the boss of another man should not have a painting of that man in his house. That's all I'm going to say. I just think it's weird. You can have that at your office. I don't think that's that crazy. I just, like, in your home,
Very strange.
it's a bizarre thing to do. That's all. He's had it in his home like since 2018. I don't know.
Speaking of bizarre, before we bring up the bizarre fact. Our merch partners, PHI Apparel Company, the best in the game. You guys can gear up for the Eagles, the Sixers, the Flyers, the Union, and also get your Phillies merch as well for next season with our pals at PHI Apparel Company. They are the exclusive merch partners of Underground Sports Philadelphia, and there's no doubt in our minds that you will stand out in the crowd by rocking their merch, and you can get exclusive Underground Sports Philadelphia merch as well. And right now, through 4:25 p.m. on Sunday, you can take 20% off all Eagles gear on their shop with code DallasSucks. That's code DallasSucks at phiapparel.co for 20% off all Eagles gear. And then at any time, 365 days of the year, you can use code Underground for 10% off any and all merch orders. It's the most effective and direct way to support everything we're doing here. So go stand out in the crowd and go to phiapparel.co. And through Sunday at 4:25, use code DallasSucks to get 20% off your Eagles merch. The one thing I found bizarre, Matt, about the video of James Harden walking into the Clippers locker room, he has 3 phones just bricked up in his hand.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never seen somebody walk in with 3 phones just stacked.
I have to imagine that there might be one phone that is he might have like a team, you know. He almost certainly has a team.
Yes.
I have to imagine one of those phones is maybe like a strictly like business phone, and that's where like his like social media accounts are, and it's probably easy to keep it all in one thing. And maybe one was like a team phone, like a Clippers, the same for like but the Clippers, like he was like I don't know. I'm just trying to give him the benefit. It was bizarre. I also noticed I was like, that's weird to have 3.
We got a tweet response because we posted that video from one of our longtime followers at Intimidator21. Direct line to his agent for demanding his next trade. Direct line to LA strip clubs.
Always ABC. Always be complaining.
Yes.
Always be complaining.
Phone number 2 is the direct line to all the LA strip clubs. Open line for strip clubs in road trip visiting cities. And then his everyday personal phone is actually in his pocket.
Well, I would just say that James Harden is an NBA veteran, which means he already knows where all the strip clubs and all the cities are. I don't think he needs to. He does not need the phone.
That's why Daniel House got kicked out of the bubble.
Yeah, they know. They understand.
Also, is PJ Tucker just a clause in James Harden contracts?
Yeah, I think it's you can't.
It's the law.
Yeah, he is the. On the infomercial, when they're like, buy now and you get a free gift, he is the free gift. He just kind of comes along. And yeah.
That honestly might be the best part of this trade, is that you get off of 38-year-old PJ Tucker's absurd contract.
Yeah, I'll say this. PJ Tucker brought a good energy to the
Yes.
team. One of the most like accountable. Like we've brought in like veterans over the years to try and keep people accountable and motivated and bring some type of edge. He was like one of the only guys to actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
So... was he overpaid? Absolutely, but I don't know. He was actually like, if you could have offered me,
he was
PJ
fun
Tucker
to root
on like
for.
a better contract, like I would have
Yes.
taken it, I guess. Like, but yeah, he just goes for Harden, does. He's the James Jones to LeBron.
So yeah, James Harden, we hardly knew ya. Didn't even play a full 82 with the Philadelphia 76ers. Got 79 games in his belt.
Whatever.
So we'll see what happens with the Sixers. But moving on, it is Dallas week. It's brought to you by our pals over at FOCO. Guys, you saw me wearing the Phillies overalls all red October long. Well, if you need to switch it up and get in the Eagles spirit of things, they got Eagles overalls as well, plus some unbelievable collectibles and apparel. FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more, and with major sports and entertainment licenses at their disposal, along with a powerful infrastructure, a dedicated team, and a broad variety of products. Their company is reaching new heights every day. You can click the link in our YouTube description or on the audio description. Check out everything that FOCO has to offer. We love being a part of the FOCO fam. They've got awesome stuff. Their bobbleheads are off the charts. So check out the Forever Collectibles. That's what FOCO is short for. Shout out to them. and go support our sponsors because they love supporting us. It's Dallas week, Matt, for the first time this season. It'll go down at the Link this go-round before the Eagles have a bye week. Eagles coming off a big win against Washington in Washington on Sunday and have the best record in the NFL. And now we finally have a matchup that is primed to be potentially the best of the year so far.
We'll see. Anytime in the NFL we get these like big like must-watch games. They always,
49ers Dallas earlier this year.
They always they've just disappointed. Even the Eagles Dolphins the other
Yeah.
week on Sunday was like big matchup. You know, it was like a styles make fights kind of game, and I don't know. it was okay. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these games, Bills Dolphins from a few weeks ago was like touted as a big one. I'm trying to think. Even like Chiefs Lions game 1 was kind of like, wow, Lions really exciting team. Chiefs, and it just really wasn't that compelling, I guess is the word. So I will say Cowboys Eagles typically does deliver though on the drama, and usually like weirdly a pretty high scoring game too. You know, I feel like over the last few seasons we've definitely seen the score. I remember last year the Minshew game got pretty carried away offensively too for both teams. So looking forward to it. It's the Eagles I think got a nice break with the 49ers losing again. You know, gives you now the opportunity in the NFC to push a little ground. You know, you still have the Lions chasing, but
Your Brock Purdy agenda looking great.
I'm not celebrating just yet, but I was a little worried starting 5-0 that I was like, well, that you make some you have some takes in the offseason that don't pan out all the time. That's fine. But now I'm like, well, maybe I was right. The rest of disadvantages is going to matter when their team can't stay healthy. But good opportunity for the Eagles to. This is home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the get-in price is quite pricey.
Yeah.
Not
I should
a
know
s-
SeatGeek has been trying to get me all week.
Not for the faint of heart, and not a sponsor, but they have they've always like interacted with our stuff, and we'd love to work with them if they are down. Our good social media pals over at TickPick, the get-in price on their website right now, for 2 tickets on Sunday at 425 standing room, $432 ticket.
That's just.
For an actual seat, it's $482 ticket.
It's just crazy. I know that people use this as like a litmus test. Like they were using it for the Phillies in the playoffs. Like, this is how great Philly is. It's like, is it great actually that people are priced out of games?
No.
Is it like good that if you want to go to a game with someone, you have to spend $1,000 to do it? Like
It's absurd.
I don't. That's not fan friendly.
No.
Like, it just isn't, and I don't think that creates a good environment either. When it's like, I don't know, like it just kind of sucks. But I mean, it's the biggest regular season game of the year in it because it happens every year, and there's that rivalry. And so Cowboys have been maybe the strangest team in the NFL this year in that they've had 2 of the most embarrassing losses, but then a lot of like really dominant wins.
And most of it coming from their defense, which I think was unexpected.
Right. It wasn't until that Rams game that you really felt like offensively they were.
Yeah, that was
It felt
easily
like
Dak's
click.
best game of the year.
I think you could also say that was the Eagles' best game of the year up until the Dolphins game. But I think the way they
Yeah.
moved the ball against the Rams was, I think, the smoothest the offense looked at any point this season. So both teams, I think, I don't know. It's a strange one to match up. Yeah, defensively, they still have big play ability as well. You know, we saw that against the Rams, pick sixes, and we know that they can obviously put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. It's really hard to figure out where this game goes. And I think we've just always defaulted to these teams split, and it's usually home and home. You know, like you win your home game, you lose your away game in this one. So that's where I would kind of fall on this.
It also feels like this is the first time in a long time that it's actually been Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts. Not that they're playing against each other on the field, but like both guys healthy, Both guys playing for their team in this game.
Was Dak healthy for the first game last year? Didn't he miss that one too? Because he had an injury early last season that he missed games, and I feel like it was Cooper Rush. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, last year was both teams had backups in both games. Yeah, it was. I'm remembering this much more clearly now that it was the backup in Philly too.
Is this accurate? They've only played one game against each other head to head.
I think that could be because
it feels that way.
Because the season before, Jalen didn't start until
late in the year.
I don't think.
And then Dak missed all of 2021. Was that the year he broke his leg or his ankle?
The problem is like 2018 to 2021 have blended in my mind in a way that no other like
pocket of years
pocket has. I want to say that was before 2021 though. I feel like that might have even been like 2019. Dak messed up his ankle. And the only reason I'm remembering
2020 was
2020. The only reason I'm saying that is because I remember the Sleep Number commercials that he was in. And I feel like I remember seeing those years ago at this point. And that was like, I remember that was like post-injury. Was this, I don't know why that is a connection.
He only played in 5 games in 2020, and then he came back 2021 and played in every game.
Yeah, so there's that element too. You really
that is crazy.
Haven't had the opposite.
Because it always feels like, when you talk NFC quarterbacks, it's like the last couple of years, it's Jalen Hurts and then Dak Prescott.
Well, it's been, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy, kind of two sides of the same coin.
Kirk Cousins, baby. I feel obliged. My theory about the QB documentary, I think is accurate. Being the new Madden curse.
It's possible.
Mahomes is having a very strange year.
Well, he was poisoned.
Kirk, unfortunately, tears his Achilles.
I don't know. Mariota's got a pretty nice life right now. He's
Mariota
getting paid a lot of money by the Eagles to just be
But he did have the worst preseason of his career, and it was very close to him just getting cut. And who knows if he gets signed?
I don't know. I think it worked out okay for Mariota. I was sad for Kirk Cousins, and I was explaining it to Sarah because she also has him on fantasy, and so she was like, "What should I do with my team?" And I was like, "Oh, I try not to give her too much because we're in a competitive league." But I was like, "We should drop Kirk because he had a season-ending injury," and she was like, "But he looks so handsome and nice." And I was like, "Yeah," and I was explaining they still they had their trick-or-treat thing, the Vikings, and he still went.
Yeah,
I was like, she was crying. And I was like, she was like, "I'm crying over Kirk Cousins." I was like, "I know, it's really sad." It's like it's a contract year from him. He was 36. He was playing the best.
Is he that old?
Yeah. He's playing the best football of his life. He was in the RG3 draft.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have this, and this is gonna sound like bullshit. I don't know if I actually tweeted it. I know for a fact, though, on draft night that I was going to tweet that Kirk Cousins was going to have a better career than RG3. That was based off absolutely nothing because I had done no types of draft analysis. It was just a gut feeling that I had. I don't know if I ever even actually tweeted it. And it's going to sound like I'm making it up, but I promise you, there's no real reason for me to make this story up. I maybe almost tweeted that I thought Kirk Cousins, based on nothing, was going to be better than RG3. But
so far, the only tweet of yours that comes up with Kirk Cousins is from 2015, and you saying, "I never realized that Kirk Cousins looks just like Kevin Love."
Okay, well that's not wrong. That's not wrong. It's pretty right about that. Yeah, I think I maybe just never tweeted it, but I do feel for Kirk, and it sucks. I don't know. I mean, it's from a different perspective too. I think for the Eagles, I mean, the NFC is not that great right now.
Nope.
Here is the playoff picture right now, halfway through the season. So take it as it is. But Eagles, Lions, Seahawks, Falcons. That's your division winners right now.
Seahawks are looking like decent.
Yeah, Seahawks are a good team.
Yeah.
Like they are
They're pretty good.
And then you have the Cowboys, 49ers, Vikings all in the wild card.
Rightfully so, I think.
You have to imagine the Vikings. They have a pretty good schedule coming up, but I mean, trade for Josh Dobbs, and then you're praying on Nick Mullins to come back.
Or signing Carson Wentz.
He's too busy murdering something. And then your bubble teams. The Saints, who could win the division, so they could be the Falcons there instead. The Bucks, the Rams, the Commanders.
Well, Commanders, I think, are dead in the water now.
But they're one game out of the wild card.
Traded off their two best players.
One game out of the wild card. They're 3-5. The Packers are 2-5. They're 2 games out of a wild card spot. You know, like one of those teams is gonna probably replace the Vikings.
Who are the division winners right now again, you said?
The Eagles, Lions, Seahawks, Falcons. So you can see the Seahawks, Falcons being switching. You can see the Niners there
that
for sure.
could, in a world, potentially this one, that is your division winners this year. And then
it's going to come down. The NFC West is going to come down to the Seahawks 49ers games later this season.
I was talking with Pat Pitts earlier this week about the 49ers schedule. Them losing 3 straight the way they have is not good for them because their upcoming schedule is there's potential for 3.5 losses. I set the line at. They're obviously on the bye this week. They come out of the bye. They have to go to Jacksonville, who very good team right now. They've won like 5 or 6 straight. Then they have to travel back to Santa Clara, play the Buccaneers, go to Seattle on a short week, go to Philly.
Remember when I said that they have the worst rest advantage? Like they got screwed. The way that the Jets got coddled with their like travel and rest advantage, the 49ers are on the opposite end of the spectrum in that, like you just said, they have a lot of weird travel,
a lot of back and forth,
crossing
from West
time
Coast to
zones,
East
and they're
Coast.
playing teams. A lot of times they're playing teams coming off of buys. Like it's negated this week because the Jags are also on a bye, so they're really not even getting like an advantage on a team that is coming off any kind of week in game.
Like, good teams they have left. They have the Jags, they have the Seahawks twice, the Eagles, and they have to play the Ravens still
on Christmas.
That's 5 games against playoff teams right now, not including, going to the Commanders. We'll see what that ends up being like. You have to go to Arizona. The Buccaneers are not, I don't think they're a good team, but they're frisky. And then you end the season against the Rams. Like, there's potential for 3 or 4 losses in there. You're talking about a 6 or 7 loss 49ers team.
It's possible. It's also possible that they regain form and they, lose like 2 games, 1 game. The rest, it's all on the table for them. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a concern there. I think we'll see. Yeah, I'd like to see a little more on Purdy before we make like any like real judgments. But and how much of that was concussion stuff. Bizarre that he played last weekend.
Very
he picks up
strange.
concussion symptoms in the middle of the week. Now there were symptoms. I don't know if he was actually diagnosed with a concussion. He was just in the protocol. So
He did get hit and at one point like immediately grabbed for his helmet, which was concerning.
And they showed like the stats after that hit, and definitely brought it up like Tua vibes from last season. But I don't know. Like that was bizarre because like pretty much every time someone has been concussion protocol this year, they've not played the following week. The only person I think that was Musgrave, but that was because he played on a Thursday and they were off until they had a 10-day.
And the last
layoff.
time I think was last year. Kenny Pickett did it.
Right. It's just not something that, and he picked it up late. Like it was like I think Wednesday when that report came out. So kind of bizarre he played, but
Also, kind of got to start looking at Kyle Shanahan a little bit. I forget if you mentioned, kind of being on fraud watch for him in our
I have been on
preseason.
Kyle Shanahan fraud watch.
Okay.
For
I
my
wanted to make
entire
sure.
Life. The guy is rated as this offensive genius. Half of his offenses have never finished above average.
Do you want more ammunition for your Kyle Shanahan
He's
agenda?
like barely above 500 as a coach.
When trailing by 3+ points entering the fourth quarter in Kyle Shanahan's career, 1-31.
He's down by 8. death sentence for the biggest offensive genius of our lifetimes. People won't stop jerking this dude off. He's an offensive genius. You just don't understand. But yeah, I know what the fuck he does. It's very easy for me to understand. It's Debo fucking Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, the most skilled skill group ever assembled. Of course he looks good. No shit.
And now their defenses look like shit.
It's just my beef with the 49ers. Not trying to victory lap, but in the offseason was this type of thing, though, that we have this image of Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, and they have been a good team. And he has, like, I will say, like, he can elevate. He's a floor-raising kind of coach, but it has gone wrong a lot in San Francisco during his time there. Like, and it has gone, like, average a lot of times there. I think we have this tendency to, like, really fixate on the years where it's gone very well and just, like, now part of that has been injury, too. Like, it's not always been his fault necessarily, but I don't know. And you know, like the concerns that were brought up at the Eagles, they lost a defensive coordinator too.
Yep.
Who's turned into what looks like a pretty good head coach in D'Amico Ryans. Like he's done well in Houston. So I don't know. I just think not dancing on their grave just yet, but these are the concerns that I think that you had. And I think for the Eagles, even though we haven't loved the Eagles, they're 7-1.
Yep.
Like I don't know. What do you
and still like efficient like in so many categories.
What are you
like,
supposed to do with that when you don't? When most of the fans, it feels like don't feel happy with the performances, but like winning every week. I don't know.
I think the biggest thing is like obviously the situational play calling, but when you look across the board, when the games are said and done, Eagles are top 5 in almost every offensive category. You know, it's crazy that 2013 to 2015, Chip Kelly was a snake oil salesman trying to say that time of possession didn't matter. Look at when the Eagles have won games this year. In the 7 wins, they have dominated time of possession. That's what wins you. If you have the ball, you're going to win games. And I know the trade deadline is come and gone, and Kevin Byard was the one acquisition before the trade deadline, and then the Eagles traded a defensive tackle to the Falcons and didn't do much else. I'm genuinely okay with that. I think my biggest question, and I don't know how you feel about it, what could Rashad Penny have done to just continue being inactive? Like, I get, wanting to keep a healthy rotation of your running backs, but, like, Kenny Gainwell hasn't done too much to really, like, stand out and warrant full, backup running back roles. Why not give Rashad Penny a shot?
Because he's going to be our Corey Clement, and he's going to come in the playoffs and be like
just putting him on ice.
I think they might just be like, listen, you cannot play more than like 17 snaps without something snapping. So like we are just going to let you practice all year, take it easy on your body, and in the playoffs, Rashad Penny's going to average like 7.8 yards per carry, and he's going to be Super Bowl MVP. I don't know. I don't really.
I would like to see it.
I don't have like a firm answer on that.
It is very strange.
When he's healthy, he's a good running.
Yes.
Like, and he's healthy. I don't know.
He's never had an offensive line like this either.
So I honestly, there's a part of me that believes what I just said. I said it as a bit. But
I never thought of it that way. But that is
part of me that believes like, listen, like. It's like when you sign like a veteran player in some other sports, right? Where it's like, we're just managing you to the playoffs. Like that is what matters. This means nothing. NFL, you can't really get away with like abandoning the regular season like you can maybe in other sports where it's like we don't need to put as much stock into every single game, but maybe they're literally he's a playoff signing. I don't know.
That I'd never thought of it that way, simply because it's like, oh, he's coming to a team that has easily the best offensive line in football. He's going to stay healthy behind this, but hey, deploy him, in December.
Or he's Trey Sermon.
That too.
Both things could be possible.
The other good news is it seems like Cam Jurgens is on his way back, which is going to help this offensive line so much. I feel like the running game really took a hit when he got injured. And it's still been very serviceable. Sua Opeta was very fine in relief. Tyler Steen was very good. But getting a guy like Cam Jurgens back is only going to elevate this offensive line and make DeAndre Swift look even better than he has this year. And who would have thunk? Jalen Hurts throwing a touchdown pass to Julio Jones in the year of our Lord 2023.
It's bizarre. It's a bizarre timeline. It's weird too because I was before the Julio Jones signing. Sometimes I just get these. I think because I was watching a lot of like the Phillies like montages and stuff. So I got like an Eagles one of the Super Bowl, and one of I think the underrated iconic moments of that is the Falcons.
Yep.
The goal line stand where Julio Jones gets defended, and I don't know. Like, it's weird because Julio Jones has had this like amazing career, but it feels like he's never. I couldn't really tell you like an iconic Julio Jones moment. He had like that big like 200+ receiving day, but like I don't know. He's always been like just a super great wide receiver, like one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen. But it's never felt like he's like a game dominator. I don't know. It's I guess he's never been like a high touchdown guy either. So it's like I don't know. But
and not that Matt Ryan is a bad quarterback. Like Matt Ryan had his run
MVP year.
Yeah,
and thanks to Kyle Shanahan.
And it's just like, and it's the Falcons. Like I feel like once Michael Vick left the Falcons, like they almost were taken off the map of relevancy for a long time. And then after he left Atlanta too, it was just like he bounced around, went to Tennessee, went to Tampa Bay, and then kind of just like people thought he like soft retired, and then out of the blue the Eagles signed him, and I think it's really cool that he's here. It seems like he's contributing, obviously, scoring a touchdown, and they just added him to the active roster, so he's no longer on the practice squad. So I guess that shows you Julio Jones is here for the long term now.
Yeah. Which is fun, maybe this year ends up good for him. I don't know.
Just as we all wrote it, Julio Jones going down in history as an Eagles legend.
Yeah.
Dallas week is going to prove to be very, very fun. I think this is a good test for the Eagles too. Just like that Miami game, go into this game and see where you sit, and then you go into the bye week potentially at 8-1, and then you come out with that mini little stretch run of very good potential playoff teams on your schedule, from the Chiefs, the Bills, the 49ers, Dallas again, and then the Seahawks. So in this stretch, Matt, how do you see the Eagles coming out of this 6-game stretch?
This is the stretch I think that had a lot of losses penciled for them all the way to the Seahawks game. I think if you go 4-2 in this stretch, that is great.
I agree.
Honestly, I think 3-3 in this stretch is really not. If you come out of this 10-4, and you're going into Giants, Cardinals, Giants at 10-4, I think you take that because I think you could be finishing the season 13-4.
Preseason, you had them at 2-2 in November.
Yeah,
which was obviously chalked up to a split with the Cowboys, and then the Chiefs. I think we both.
Yeah. Bills game looks a little different now because they have so many defensive injuries, and Josh Allen is hurt again, but they're saying that they're not talking about him being hurt, but he's had this shoulder injury for the last 2 weeks, and he's, it hasn't really affected his play all that much, but slightly concerning. But yeah, I think if you go like 4-2, 3-3 is a good record coming out of that, I think.
Yeah, so we'll see how that all plays out. Union are off this week because the MLS playoff format stinks.
Well, got some drama there. Kai Wagner apparently
not good,
racially abusing Bobby Wood. So I have a tendency to believe players when stuff like this happens because
why wouldn't you?
No one's making this up, and it was something that was like he said it on the field too, and it was communicated to the referee, and there's an investigation. Apparently he said it in German. Bobby Wood knows German because lived there, played there. I don't know if Kai Wagner just assumed he didn't know German. I don't know. But
not great.
Not great at all, and I think it really sours all of this especially because Kai Wagner was someone that we wanted. He became like this kind of central pillar of we need to pay players and all this, and we need to pay him what he's worth, and it seemed like he was going to be walking away after the season, and now it feels like he might be pushed away instead. So, really just a terrible decision. I hope that there was just a miscommunication. Yes. It does not feel that way. And, anytime we've seen this in the MLS, even this season, there have been a few instances like this. It's always been the case that either There's a Red Bull player that was suspended, and then there was another player to his own teammate, and I think the investigation never really went anywhere. Like, it was never like confirmed, denied, whatever. But the contract was mutually agreed to be dissolved, and the team and the player went their own separate ways. So I don't know. I don't know where it goes. Definitely puts a negative light on winning game one, and I hate this playoff format. So
and it already had a negative light from the format to the just leading into the playoffs.
And I didn't think the Union played all that great in that game. I watched it back, and pretty open defensively. I know that the scoreline makes it seem like pretty comprehensive win, but they had a lot of opportunities to New England, so I don't know. Not in love with it. Not a great way.
And I was talking to people, too, just like in tap with it. It's like, why are the Union the only team that have been subjected to stay on like the Saturday, Wednesday schedule when there's games playing throughout the entire week this week? Like, I get, like, you're playing New England and they play at Gillette and the Patriots are home, so, like, that takes priority.
Well, the way to do this is that the Union already won their game, and so they should just
Exactly.
be in that next round. You know, it's just
Exactly.
the whole thing.
There's no point for a best of three, especially in the first round of soccer. There's no need for it. I was talking about this with my dad. I said, you know, this is just as like physically like demanding as American football, strictly from the wear and tear and pounding on your knees of running up and down a field for 90 plus minutes a game.
Also had a ton of games this year, a lot of travel, a lot of like intercontinental travel.
Julian Carranza went on PHLY Union with Renee Washington and said, like, we played 48 games this year and it was not fun.
Yeah, it's a big toll, and this is after two of really, for a lot of these players too. You know, we were in the World Cup last year, and so you had a shortened off season for them.
There's Olympics next year.
There's Olympics to think about. You know, all these guys will have international, consideration. Like it's a lot.
It's so much.
You get 3 weeks if you're like a high level soccer player, typically, of break.
It's
like
insane.
literally, you get 3 weeks between like. Again, depending on how good your club team is doing too, from like usually like early June, maybe like late May, early June to the end of June, and then July you're right back at it. 2 to 3 weeks.
Which is like, when do we start seeing more and more guys do? Now, obviously, it's a little different because of who he is, but do what Messi did, and it's like, I'm not playing in Atlanta because it's on turf. I'm taking an obligated rest day. So
in Europe, they've decided that turf is stupid, and that grass is the only surface that you should be playing on. So there's that. I think it's.
But even just from a to pull out a page out of the NBA, playbook, when do we see load management come into soccer?
You do see rotation and things like that. Like, there are considerations. The problem is that just as everything becomes tied so much to money, like games mean more and more. Like you see this in the Premier League, right? Where it's like you can't really even afford to rotate in Premier League games because the quality of opposition is so much higher now because there's so much more money in the league that you can't even afford to like rotate guys on a hypothetically easier matchup. And there's just so much more pressure on advancing into other stages and cups and leagues, and I don't know. It's a bad cycle that the sport is in, and that players are asked to do a lot of traveling, play a lot of games, and not have a ton of breaks. And the quiet tragedy that I've heard, and there's been some articles, is you have a lot of players addicted to sleeping pills because, especially in Europe, you're playing games, you're traveling. It's 1 a.m. when you're getting out. You're flying. Like, how could you possibly? You're playing these games late at night. They just wrapped up games in England, and they're an hour behind us now. But when I was on my way over here, like 5:30, so I think they're only 4 hours ahead. That game's ending at 9:30. They're you're getting home if you're the home team at like 11 midnight,
That's
and
like,
you just played like an insane,
it's like the late
game.
slate of NFL, to put in like comparison.
Right, like it's an intense thing. Liverpool has to take a bus home because the weather was so bad. It's like a 4-hour bus ride. You're getting home at 3-4 a.m. Like this is, and I just that's why these guys are, a lot of them are. It's sad, but a lot of them are addicted to sleeping pills, and I think it's going to be something that comes reckoned with in the next decade. I think we'll see. We've already seen it with like a lot of players on like pain prescriptions. That is a deep underlying current in the NFL. Like these guys are loaded up before games. You know what they have to do to endure, but I guess that's the price. Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be interesting. Union back at it next week. See if the Birds go into the bye week at 8-1. We'll see how the Sixers keep progressing, and optimistic October has come to an end. Flyers, pretty solid month of October. We'll see if that progresses. They allowed Wally the Alligator into the building, so we'll see if that brings any good vibes or not. But we'll progress forward with everything we got going on and more. I am slowly but surely catching up on Survivor, and we'll hopefully be caught up to speed for next week's episode there and bring you back the Survivor breakdowns. But make sure you guys are following us at Underground PHI on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify. It really does help. Subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. We're really close to more milestones, so it really does help if you subscribe. YouTube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. And be sure to get your merch, phiapparel.co. Use code Underground for 10% off your orders. And this show is presented by the City of Vineland. And whether you're a company looking to expand, relocate, or you're a new business startup, selecting the right location is critical to your success. Vineland, New Jersey offers both an affordable business location and an excellent quality of life. The city's economic development department is a one-stop source for moving your project through the development and approval process. And their goal is to make this process as smooth as possible and to provide the fastest turnaround time in the region. If you're considering potential locations for your operation, contact the Vineland Economic Development Team at 856-794-4100. That's 856-794-4100. Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always growing season. A big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. It's been episode number 582. A c'est la vie to Uno of Underground Sports Philadelphia. For Matt, I'm KB. We'll catch you guys next time, but until then, we're getting the heck up out of here, and we are signing off. Peace.